Game Design Live Chat. I am Carla Kopp. I'm a game designer, developer, and publisher. And this is the wonderful Victoria Caña. She is also a game designer and publisher. She co-owns Cat Quartet Games. She designed Gladius, and she works for Wizards of the Coast right now. But Victoria, can you tell us more about yourself?
Oh yeah, thanks for having me. I'm trying to think of other things, like cool secret facts that aren't related to games because yep, I make indie games. The first one, Gladius, was successfully funded on Kickstarter this past March. It's a game where you play as spectators who are betting on gladiators who are competing in the gladiatorial games. And we also have, potentially some other upcoming games. One is called Red Cliffs that was signed with Letterman Games, and we got some other cool stuff in the pipeline. Other than that, I also try to do tabletop and video game stuff. So these days, I've been trying to learn how to use Unity, which it's hard, but it's fun.
Yeah. Like I tried to do a class in Unity before, and yeah, it takes a while. Like, well, you have to go down the two different paths, and yeah, I just was not interested enough to finish that class.
Yeah. Well, the cool thing is I took this class. It's run by this group called Coven. So it's specifically for people of marginalized genders. So it was cool of being in a class with all women. And we also learned about like the history of the games industry, and they teach you like professional development stuff to help you get jobs in the games industry. It was really fun. It was like I think if it was just a Unity class, I would have been like you, where I'm like, I give up. I don't want to do it anymore. But it was a lot more focused on making games that you want to make with other cool people. So it was fun. Low pressure. I just made some, basic games.
Oh, that sounds really cool. Like with like having a class where you do like all that, like and actually talk about like history and other things. Like I really wish like some part of my education actually was like, oh, okay, let's talk about like how we're also humans and
Yeah.
things that happened in the past.
Yeah.
But yeah, I have to look into that.
Yeah.
So today we're talking about adapting tabletop games for the virtual world because we've maybe not like conveniently been put in a place where we have to do a lot of things more virtually than before. So can you tell us, like, give an example of a game that you've adapted to be played over Zoom or Skype?
Sure. So all of this started with the fact that I'm a producer for a team of game designers at my work, and we usually do a bunch of, well, we usually do a bunch of team building stuff, and oftentimes it'll be food, it'll be playing board games, it'll be playing video games, do an escape room, something like that. And well, with the pandemic, we obviously can't do that, and we were trying to figure out what stuff we could do online together. And like everyone else, we started out with Jackbox games, but after we played that too many times, we had to do something else. So the first game we actually adapted was Just One, which is a very easy game to adapt to play over webcam. And so basically what we would do is we would have one person show on screen the card with a list of words, and the other person would have to go look away or walk away somewhere and just say a number. Meanwhile, everybody else would see what the word was, and they would send all of their clues to one person who would be like the like the GM running it in a way, and that person would consolidate it to a list, and then we'd show that list to the person who has to guess the word, and that's how we were able to get around not being able to play Just One in person. But there have been many other ways that we've adapted other types of games to be able to play them online.
Yeah, I mean that is the perfect reason of just like wanting to like team build and stuff, and yeah, Just One is a great game to start out with. Well, and super fun because like how many people did you actually get to play that game?
Yeah, we also extended it beyond the normal amount of people. Like we played with like 10 to 12 people, even though I think the maximum number of people who could play it's like 8 or something.
Yeah. Well, I think that's mainly because of the physical constraints. Like it comes with, I believe, 7 little boards.
7, yeah. It's because it's definitely because of the boards. And I'm sure at a certain point they were like, okay, well, after 7, maybe that's too many clues that you get. But it still works because it's mostly a game where you just want to play with a large group of people and see if you can get them to guess the word.
So, what are like other aspects? Like you brought up like that it was like a word game, and you want to play with a large group of people. Like, what are some other aspects to games that would probably work really well going into the virtual?
Yeah, sure. I think there are many ways that you can adapt tabletop games for the digital world. Uh, One of the things that a lot of people are doing right now is putting their games on Tabletopia or Tabletop Simulator. But another interesting angle, I think, is people who are just designing experiences that are normally tabletop experiences and optimizing them for the tools that they have, which are basically video conferencing, Discord channels. So, for example, I went to a online murder mystery birthday party. And for those of you who are not familiar with murder mystery parties, usually it's an in-person affair where there's somebody who organizes it. You get assigned a character, you get like a physical envelope, you dress up, you go to like a themed party. It might be like Roaring Twenties themed. You talk to people and stuff, and you have objectives. And then in the middle of the night, somebody gets murdered, and then after that, you have to figure out who killed them and why. Uh, but there's the company that makes a bunch of murder mystery games. I forgot what their name is. I think it's like Night of Mystery or something. I played one of their Western mysteries that was adapted for playing over Zoom or over Discord. And I think it was more fun than if I had to play in person, because honestly, if I had to go to a house party with, like 20 people, it could be very stressful. Uh, but what we did was we all chose our role. We got a PDF document and we were told like only look at these pages at these times, and it tells you who your character is. It gives you context about what you're doing. So like for us, we were at this saloon, there was a poker tournament, and then using Discord, the moderator made different channels that represented places at the saloon. Like, here's the poker table, here's the bar, here's the secret back room. And people would just walk around in those rooms and go try to talk to people there. But it was also cool because unlike in real life where it'd be super creepy if you just like walk next to people and like try to listen in on their conversation, on Discord you could just like appear on the Discord channel that they have and listen in, and sometimes they would ask why you were there if they didn't want you to hear their secret info, but other times they would just continue to converse, and you could join in when you wanted to.
Yeah, I think that's really cool. Like, I hadn't heard of any Discord games, but I can like certainly see it after like all the conventions that have gone online like that.
Yeah.
I was playing I was like super passionate about this werewolf game that was being
Yeah.
played over Slack, where if you asked me to play like werewolf in person, I would never do that. Like, there's
Yeah.
other
Mhm.
games. There's
Yeah.
plenty of other games for me to deal with, but like I
Yeah.
was like at the start of the pandemic, I was like so excited each night for
Yeah.
like hour or two of
Yeah.
werewolf. Just because like as you said, it's different. Like it can be different
Mhm.
online. Like there's less like social pressure. You're just there. Like you can talk when you want
Yeah.
to. And there was also with this, it was played like over text Slack.
Mhm.
So like afterwards, or like even like during, you could like search for things. Like you could
Yeah.
search and see like what everything of one person said, and you could easily like
Yeah.
analyze it and stuff,
Mhm.
which made it much more like less of an like acting thing, like an in-person
Mhm.
thing would be, and
Yeah.
more like analytical.
Yeah.
Did you see any of that like when you for the murder mystery like online version?
Like what part specifically?
Like anything that would just like different or would appeal to like other people other than just like the social anxiety parts of it.
Oh yeah. I think that I think something that's interesting is that murder mystery parties. I don't think that those are I've gone to a lot of tabletop game conventions, and I would actually say that I don't think that many of those games are played by hobbyist gamers. Like most of the time, it's like you know board games, RPGs, LARPs, escape rooms, but I've never heard anyone play murder mystery parties. And so I think, like, I'm not an expert in murder mystery parties or anything, but it seems like these are more of like the of what people who don't really play, like, don't think that they're gamers, they'll play murder mystery parties without even realizing that they're just role playing basically. And like, aside from adapting these for the virtual world, aside from it getting rid of the fact that, well, one, you don't have to dress up unless you have webcam. Two, it gets rid of the social anxiety, because you don't have to show your face at all. You could just be a voice. I think it was really cool because it makes for a more focused game in a way, because if you're there in person, it's easy to lose focus in a way, right? Because if you can't easily access people, if you're not a part of the right conversations because, like, there's a huge house and you can't go find the right people or hear what's been heard, then you might tune out of the game and just hang out. Maybe you'll just eat or something like that. But I think that playing a murder mystery party on Discord created a more focused experience, because it's only you on your computer listening to other people, and then you have another screen that has your secrets. So I like that aspect of it, where everybody, like, nobody can tune out unless they have to go to the bathroom and suddenly they disappear. So
Yeah, that's like a really good reason why like that format just really works. Like, and why it might appeal more to like as you said, like there's not a lot of gamers that would do that. Like if you were like, hey Carla,
Mhm.
do you want to do a murder mystery night? I'd be like, well, probably not, because like I don't know, I'd have to like the whole like getting an outfit thing and being around people and like
Yeah,
just like the whole like awkwardness of it. Like I never know how
yeah,
to end a conversation, so I just walk
yeah.
out or whatever. But like on Discord, it's so much easier. Um,
Hmm.
so I think like that's a fantastic idea. Um, so would there be like other reasons somebody might want to like try to adapt one of their games to like a Zoom or a Skype or a Discord instead of like the traditional like Tabletopia and Tabletop Simulator?
I think that adapting, like, rather than just straight up putting your physical game into, like, a physics-based tool like Tabletopia or Tabletop Simulator, is because it can challenge you to do some interesting things. So, for example, I have a colleague who usually has a board game birthday party where he just, invites a bunch of people over to play board games at his house. And he calls it NateCon. Uh, and this year he couldn't do that, so he created an Excel spreadsheet and he scheduled a bunch of games, and people play them online. And the one that I played was an audio escape room, or like an online escape room. And I had no idea what it would be like. I've done escape rooms in real life. For those who don't know what an escape room is, it's basically like you're brought into a physical room and you are supposed to get out by solving a bunch of puzzles with your team in a certain amount of time. And so I wasn't sure what it would be like, because a big part of the escape room format is being able to physically look through the room and look for stuff and solve puzzles that are physical puzzles. And when I played these audio escape rooms, they were also on Discord. They were super awesome. Like, the way it was played was like a role playing game, where there was the GM, and they would describe a room. They're like, here's the scene. You walk into this room, you see this in a room. There's like a table with a box, and there's like a closet, blah 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 blah. And you would just tell that person what you wanted to do. Like, I'd like to look in the box. I'd like to walk through this door. I would like to throw this rock through this portal, And so since I said the word portal, you could probably tell that you could do things that you can't do in the real world in this format. So, for example, I did 2 of these rooms. One of them involved time travel, and the other one involved like a large physical space because in that game, you'd walk into an escape room that had a door to another escape room to another escape room. So it was like Inception, basically. And I think that one of the appeals of trying to make games for, online tools specifically is that it can allow you to explore mechanics that you would have never considered if you were only focused on the physical part of board games.
Like that is so cool. Like, well, especially like the time travel thing. Like, you cannot simulate time travel other than like doing it like in a really weird way where it's like, oh, you time traveled, just go through this door, and then there's like another identical room or something that would probably take like a lot of time and effort to do. So like
it taught me to I was just saying it taught me to believe more in the power of people's imagination, which I think there are some people who do both like role-playing games and board games. Like most of the board game designers I know, like they're very focused on board game mechanics, like specifically what you can do with cards and cubes and bits, other stuff. But I'm really interested to see what people do when they're encouraged to use like digital tools or lean more into role playing and other types of storytelling and tying those to the game. Yeah.
Like, I am one of those people that's like all about like the cubes and what you do with them, but you're completely right. Like when you take that away, like people can really role play, like even if they're like not used to it, like especially if they have like a GM or somebody that like is good and can like lead them through it. Do you think a GM is needed for most of these games?
I don't. Well, I guess it depends. So, like for example, if you're playing a game like Just One, you kind of need some people to play some facilitating roles because if you have the physical card, like somebody has to hold it up on screen, somebody has to go write down all the clues. And I think you only really need a GM in the cases where there's hidden information. Then you definitely need one because somebody has to not know that information and keep it from you. But otherwise, I think that you could do many other things to adapt tabletop games to the virtual world without having somebody really be a GM. Like oftentimes, if you play games on webcam, some people will just like have a camera that they dangle over their table, and it'll either be like one person controls the whole board if everybody tells them what to do, or people have different setups and they all share on webcam, and so they look at each other's boards from there.
Yeah, I know my partner Nick, he's been playing Pandemic, where he has like the setup where there's like multiple cameras and everyone can just see, and he is just like the movement of everyone. And that one's nice because it is a co-op. So it's just so much easier when everyone is all working together.
Yeah.
Do you think like there's very many competitive games that you can like easily change into this format, or does it just work better with co-op?
I think that, well, so one of the games that's been adapted for the virtual world is Magic. So my co-designer Alex, he loves playing Commander. He used to play, so Commander is a multiplayer Magic format where everybody has their own Magic deck. Like you still have a life total. You're still trying to, not die before everybody else, basically. And he was really sad about not being able to go to those meetups anymore. So what they started doing is they would just use that camera setup that I mentioned, where they would show their board with the camera and just like tell other people like, okay, I play these creatures. I'm going to cast a spell on you. I'm going to attack you and stuff like that. So that's a very competitive game. And they actually made a tool to better help with that. I think it's called Spell Table or something, where if you have the camera, I think that Spell Table is able to read your cards and like put information on the screen or something. So it makes it easier. So it's like it can detect what cards you have. It can I think it has like a life total for you and stuff like that. So that was something that's like a new innovation for being able to mix tabletop with webcamming.
Yeah, I mean that sounds so cool. Like I can't imagine like how long that took to make, but like because it's out there, like it would make
Yeah.
Magic so much easier.
Yeah.
So, like since you've been like working around a lot of these, like changing the games into virtual, has it changed how you design games at all?
I would say that yes, like it's changed the way that I've been thinking about games because well, I mean, I was mostly focused on Gladius, but since we're getting close to, we're going to manufacture it this coming week, I've been thinking about, okay, like what new game projects could I start working on? And since we don't know when we'll be able to resume conventions or when we'll be able to even, or like play safely in board game stores frequently, uh, it's made me think about games that could be successful in a variety of different scenarios. So first of all, uh, two-player games. Two-player games or three-player games might be seeing a they were never unpopular, but they might be becoming more popular now because several, not everybody has, well, here's my whole board game squad at my house that I could just, force to play games. So maybe you need to play two-player games, or maybe you need to play solo player games. So I've been thinking about that. And then in addition to that, I've been thinking about games where if you needed to play them using Discord or Zoom, it would be easy to translate that experience. So now I'm thinking about like how can you find the fun in a variety of different ways that players might be playing this game, because I can't expect them anymore for sure to be playing at a table in front of other people. So
I think like that's a really interesting way to think about it. Of like trying to find the fun when you're like on a Zoom call or like over Discord or like just thinking about like fun in that way. Do you have any
yeah.
like examples of like things that you've been either trying or thinking about?
Hmm. I'm trying to think of some. Like one of them is, I'll have to be kind of vague because it's like still in development. But one of the things that I learned was that so if you have pieces that have lots of information on that, well, so basically, I think being able to play virtual games virtually are a lot easier if you do a party or visual based game. So for example, if all you have to do is take a, like this is a post-it note, but like if you take a piece of paper, if you show it on the camera, if the player can see a picture and understand what it is, or if they can see some words and understand what that is, I think that makes for like that's a tool or like a mechanic that you could use in the game. So some of the things I've been working on are basically like, hey, if you look at this visual, making games around people being able to see like a bunch of cards that you show them and make a game out of that, or like for them to see a bunch of words that you show them and make a game out of that, or like any other information that can be detected on a card that you put on a camera with like whatever grainy quality they have. So kind of vague, but that is what I leaned into, and like for example, at work we have some like magic mini games that have come out, and there have been some shows about some of the ones that we made. We made these ones in the past. So one of them is called Booster Sleuth. It's a game where you try to figure out like which magic card somebody has secretly selected by giving various clues and stuff like that. And then there's another one that's called Strictly Better, which is a game where it's one of the classic, apples to apples, where it's like, hey, here's a theme. Tell me which which card best fits that theme, and then somebody judges and it rotates. So that's what I mean by like showing pictures on a camera.
Yeah, I really like that. I think one game that I recently played over virtually was Tattoo Stories, where it was very much like that, where well, you all were drawing your tattoo that you were giving to the person describing, but like just being able to like show it on camera and for
Yeah,
everyone to see like the ridiculousness that you did, in addition to being able to like hear your story about it, like
yeah,
it definitely made it a lot better.
yeah. That seems. Oh yeah, drawing-based games. That's definitely a cool thing that you could still do virtually because like the fun of it is the creativity and showing your drawings. And it's always funny. Like I love the game Telestrations for large groups. And one time there like everybody was like pretty okay at drawing, and then there was one person who was just like the worst. But that made for fun games because uh her drawings you could just not understand what they were, even if it was like a basic word like sun and it looked like a sea urchin. So like
That's definitely me when I'm playing games where it's just like I need to also say with words what things are, and then you'll understand. Because
yeah.
otherwise, it's just gonna be so bad. But that might be why I'm kind of okay at what fake artist goes to New York.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of better if you're bad at it, because then
Yeah,
nobody
yeah,
knows what you're doing.
yeah.
So, since the pandemic started, what kinds of things have you learned about playtesting virtually?
Oh yeah. So playtesting has been extremely difficult because at the beginning of the pandemic, basically wasn't seeing anybody at all, was just staying inside. And so what we had to do is we had to put our game on Tabletop Simulator, and sometimes Tabletopia. Uh, and when you play test there, you find some efficiencies, because rather than having to like print out a bunch of stuff and cut them out over and over and like use a lot of ink, you just swap the assets out. While or if there's a change, you're like, oh, okay, well, next playtest, I want to change these cards because I didn't like them. You don't have to do all this printing and cutting that we used to do in sleeving, which would take many many hours. So that's a cool thing. But the downside is that if you're playing when you're playtesting virtually, you can't just write on a card and change a number. You can't just do like quick balance changes or quick like let's try this other direction mid game because you had to put that game online beforehand. So it makes iterating more difficult. And I think that when playtesting virtually, it can also be difficult because there are some people who just don't want to play board games online because they don't like the experience of it. Uh, on the other hand, it's been really cool because we have a Seattle playtesting group, and normally it means only people from Seattle, only people who can come on Wednesdays in person at the specific location in downtown Seattle could participate. But now we have people from all over come to these playtests. And so it's great because that means we get new perspectives from designers from other places and we get to try their games. So I'm really glad that virtual playtesting has allowed us to have more communities connect with people from other places, which is something that some people didn't really want to do before because there was no reason to if you just had an in-person club.
Yeah, like I know that I really enjoyed going to the Seattle ones, like when I was in town. Well,
Yeah,
and also like there's other issues like I wasn't used to driving in Seattle or finding
yeah,
a parking spot in Seattle, so that was like a
yeah,
stressful event for me.
yeah,
The first time I figured out where you park the next time I went.
yeah. The
But
free parking, yeah,
yeah, there is free parking.
yeah,
You just have to know it
yeah.
isn't the place. But yeah, like taking out all those boundaries, like I can go to the Seattle group
Hmm.
whenever I feel like, and that is
Yeah,
something I've really enjoyed. Like just the fact that there's so many playtesting nights that like if I
yeah,
wanted to, I could playtest every night.
yeah.
Um,
Hmm.
But it does get a little bit overwhelming, like just knowing, like, oh, I could be playtesting right now.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, that's true.
Do you go to any other groups other than the Seattle one, or do you just focus on that one?
Well, yeah, I think it's pretty focused there unless I run one-off playtests or like agree to play other people's games, or like do a demo. So I've been doing a lot of online conventions. Like I did play crafting, had a bunch of game like Made in X City nights where people would demo their games and talk about it. Like I did Game Devs of Color Expo, I did PAX Online. This is a good reminder because I actually need to sign up for Geek Girl Con, which I haven't done yet. But during those, it's mostly been we have Gladius on Tabletopia. We have people play test it there, and since that game is it's done, we don't have to do any iterating. But in the near future, I imagine we'll start going to conventions and playtesting new games on Tabletop Simulator.
Mm-hmm. Do you have any preference between Tabletopia and Tabletop Simulator?
I think that they each have their different uses. Like I think Tabletopia is more of a platform for when your game is done. Whereas Tabletop Simulator is better for games that are in development just because it has more features within it. And you can, on Tabletop Simulator, you can actually do it yourself. Whereas with Tabletopia, I think somebody has to set it up for you. So that's the main thing. Like it could be difficult on Tabletopia for you to be like, here's my game, and now I want to make all these changes. Because it is largely established by somebody else. So you can only really swap out assets unless you ask them how to do other things.
That makes a lot of sense. I've
Yeah.
not drawn to Tabletopia probably for that reason. It's just I haven't had the time to explain something to somebody.
Yeah.
Matt had a question. What is one thing you wish you knew prior to making games virtual? That if you could tell the pre-COVID you one thing, what would you say?
Oh, that's tough. One thing you wish you knew prior to making games virtual. That if you could tell the pre-COVID you one thing, what would you say? So is this like, I wonder if this is a situation if this is before the pandemic, if I knew about virtual stuff. I would say that I wish that I knew how to program better. Like I would have given myself the skill set to be able to make like adapt my games online and just be able to program it myself, because like I see a lot of people online where they're like, wow, I really love Cascadia. I'm going to make a like a website for it and bring the game online so people can play. Or people will be like, I'm going to make a mobile version of this game now so people can play here. I would have started making games that are easier to adapt online because, for example, Gladius is not an easy game to adapt online. That's why it's on Tabletopia, because what you need to do is there's a lot of hidden information, there's bluffing, and it's all about like placing cards, keeping them hidden from other people. And that doesn't really work well if, your basic skills are, I'm going to put flat images on a flat screen. I would have designed a flat game, which is something that people on Twitter have talked about during the pandemic. They're like, how do you design a game where there are no 3D components? And games on like Board Game Arena, like For Sale. I love For Sale. You can play For Sale. It's completely 2D. You don't need any 3D aspects for it. You just like look at cards, they come to you, you place coins and stuff like that. And so I wish I knew that so I could start thinking more about like flat games. And I need to do that more. So if I ever get some better programming skills to be able to put games online, then I'd be able to put a game that I made online because I know how to make flat games.
Mm-hmm. Well, and you bring up a really important thing, like where you talk about in Gladius where you're bluffing and like how that translates. Like I have one of my games, Big Easy Busking. It's like a bluffing area control game, And
Mhm.
this was before the pandemic. I had a reviewer try to play it, and they absolutely hated it
Yeah.
because like the whole bluffing thing, like
Yeah.
I never said it was a bluffing game. It was just like as
Yeah.
you play, you realize you should definitely bluff.
Yeah.
So what are some other aspects that are like that you've either like figured out or actually not that great for like going virtually like in Tabletop Simulator? Like, are there any other mechanics like that?
Oh, the first thing I want to say is I think you bring up a good point because one of the challenges with getting people to review Gladius is that some people didn't want to because they only play test their games with one person, themselves, or they'll play test the game with a significant other. And so they said that games with hidden information or bluffing, they couldn't review those types of games because if you play it alone, they don't work. Whereas a game that is a puzzle game, you could just make the best move for each fake player on the board based off of what happens. So I think that's something I'll keep in mind in the future as well. As for things, did you say things that are easier to put online or things that are harder?
Oh, harder.
Oh, harder. I think games that have a lot of that basically have like a huge board and require you to know everything that's going on with your opponents at all times. So for example, this game isn't that big, but it has a lot of information. I love the game Yokohama. But the problem is with Yokohama is you have like all these different parts of the board that are randomly placed based off of just like the game that you're playing, or there's a preset one you can do, and people have like tons and tons of pieces, tons of different resources. There are a bunch of mission cards that are different. It's already hard reading that stuff when you play it in person. You're just like, what's your mission? What are you doing? What are you trying to accomplish? So I think that games where you have to keep track of tons of information on the board, those are even harder when you have to play them virtually, unless you're like really skilled at, zooming across the board and like looking at everybody's stuff. I also think that these types of games are less fun because I think there's something fun about grabbing wooden bits and holding them and being like, this is fish, this is rice, like these are resources. Like a big part of why I like Euro games so much is because I like grabbing wooden bits and exchanging them for other things, and I miss holding that. And I think that when you adapt those types of games uh, to go digital, you lose out on the tactile element of that, and so it's not as fun for me, but I'm glad that like those games have still been able to get some good online experiences, like Wingspan, which coded beautifully for many. Like you can get it on Switch, you can get it on PC. I don't know, maybe you can get it on phone even. I don't know. Uh, so I think that they make up for the fact that you can't hold those really nice eggs and stuff by creating great VFX on screen that are nice. They do that with Sagrada too and Root. So I've been impressed with that.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point of like, um, well, just the fact that you're missing out on that tactile experience, so you have to have
Hmm.
something that will make up for it to make it like just as good of an experience. Like, I really like when games are coded really well. Like, so it's
Hmm.
just like it takes things out of it. Like I know, for Animal
Hmm.
Kingdoms, we coded it so that like setup is super easy. So like, well, in addition to cleanup, because like cleanup is easy for every game on Tabletop Simulator, you just close it.
Yeah.
But like if you have a button that just randomizes the setup, um,
Yeah.
things like that, they make it a little bit better. Um,
Yeah.
but I've also had that experience where I think it's like with most heavy games, like
Hmm.
if there's any amount of like where I can just like get into like what I'm doing, like I will
Hmm.
completely miss like what everyone else is doing. Like if they're done with their turn,
Yeah.
I've
Hmm.
had to like really be like tell people like we're using turns. You're
Hmm.
gonna do it. and you're going to do it every time, and also you're going to shout out like, hey, I'm done with my turn, because otherwise the game is just going to go on for like an extra hour or two. And well, just because everyone's like, oh, I'm reading my cards, I didn't know you were done. I'll just been sitting here for 10 minutes doing nothing.
Yeah, you don't have those visual cues where you can be like, this person's like staring at me to go. So yeah. Oh, this actually brings up another point that I forgot about, which is so one of the downsides of board games going virtual right now, and it's actually more, it's just like staying inside all day. I think this is like a main downside. So when I used to work in person, you would be on the computer most of the time. Because I have like a desk job. But a lot of my meetings would require me to go up and down stairs into a meeting room, and I wouldn't look at my computer in every meeting. And I would go eat lunch with people, and that'd be another time I'm not looking at a screen. One of the things that I really loved about board games was that, you can play this game and it's not going to strain your eyes because there's no screen. And now what I found is that since I look at the screen for longer hours during work, because I'm always in a video conference call, it's never like an in-person meeting, sometimes my eyes get tired and it can be hard to play board games virtually because it's like, my eyes hurt. I need to get those like Blu-ray glasses. Mine are coming this week, so hopefully they'll help a lot. But yeah, my eyes have been getting drier, and like sometimes I'll get an eye twitch, which is an unfortunate side effect of too much being online.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that brings up like a super good point, because like I was experiencing the same thing where I now have my like analog hour every day, because like before I instituted analog hour, I was just, for work I was on the computer, for fun I was on the computer, like I was just on the computer like from when I got up to when I went to bed, because everything I did was just on the computer. Whereas like I used to be able to work like a full day and then be like, let's play games all night. Like let's play like 6 hours of games because I'm up for this. Like because it's different. But like now it's like, oh, I've played Tabletop Simulator for an hour and now my brain hurts, and like I just can't. Well, in addition to the whole like I really like that my hands, like I can easily like pick up this mouse. But like Tabletop Simulator, sometimes like I just drop stuff off the table, or I'm incapable of moving a card in the right way, or something gets in my way.
Analog. I see someone in the chat says analog hour is a really great idea, and I agree because I think I've been spending too much time only online, like maybe specifically my phone, because I have a hand cramp now, so I'm like, okay, so unrelated thing that's like not even important. So I've been training my left hand because I'm right-handed, and because I use my right hand too much to be on the computer, I've been trying to train my left hand to do other tasks, like brush my teeth, eat with a fork or chopsticks, or like maybe use my mouse with my left hand, or play games predominantly with my left hand. So these are just weird things that have been going on during the pandemic that I'm doing.
I mean, like this pandemic, it's not normal, and like we've all had to do like just random coping mechanisms. But I mean, that is important because like I only use this hand. Like, well, I guess like I type with both hands, but like if I'm using it, it's gonna be like with my right hand. It's like everything is. So maybe I should just become ambidextrous.
I think my secret, post COVID skill will be like, I'm ambidextrous now. How will that come into play? I read this book when I was in like middle school, where it talked about like, oh wow, there was a teacher and she was able to write on both sides of the board, like the beginning and the end of the sentence, and write them, and they'll meet at the middle. Which is, I will barely have any use for that, unless I write on a board. But it sounded real cool.
I mean, you have to have some spatial reasoning in there to make that all happen. But yeah, like if you haven't figured out some coping mechanisms, then I guess maybe your life is the same or something. But yeah, I've also like my analog hour has also been like outside, because otherwise like I'm just on my computer and I just never like leave my chair. Well, like to go get food, and bathroom and stuff, but like the amount of steps that are between there and where I need to go, it's like
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, for me, well, there was a bunch of like wildfire smoke for a week, which that put a dent in the plans. But before that, and also after that happened, one of the things that I did was I would play board games while masked with people outdoors because with the airflow outside, it can be significantly better, especially if everybody's wearing masks and not like eating or anything. So I played some different games like Hanabi, and I played this like macaroon game from Japan called like Makaryoshka, which is an abstract area control game with elements where like you have big macaroons eat smaller macaroons. So I played those at random tables outside. So that was pretty fun, but always with like a small group. It makes me sad that I can't have really big gaming groups anymore because we used to have, like 8 people get together, and then we'd also go get food. And you really have to plan ahead of time and be like, we're going to meet at this table at this time, and nobody can be hungry because, we have to wear masks. So.
Well, and even then, like, you have to play the right games. Like, you can't, like, not every game you can be like a certain number of feet away from people.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So
yeah.
like it's so restricted.
Real restrictive.
Have you found any games that are like really good for playing like if you really did want to be like at least like 4 or 6 feet from somebody?
I think that I'm trying to think of a game where you don't have to see other people's info, because like one thing that I've seen is that there were a bunch of people and they had their own tables that were 6 feet away from each other. So they'd be like, here's me at this table, and then there's you. They played in a forest too. Like they played in a forest and they just had their own tables. But they basically had to announce everything. So I think the secret there is sometimes you could, if there's a game you're really familiar with, sometimes you can just verbally announce to people what you're doing. Kind of like chess, right? Like people play chess and they're like D4 to blah. I don't even know what other spot is on the board. But if people know the game well enough, if you are all 6 feet away and playing, you can always announce your move in a game that's like that. As long as you don't need a shared board, or if one person has the board and you can declare from a distance, what they should be doing on that board. But that requires some really strong memory that I don't personally have. I'd have to like train up for a game. Like I could do it with photosynthesis because I played photosynthesis in a board game tournament. So I had to play photosynthesis like 50 times. I'm now like an expert at photosynthesis. So I could just tell people exactly where I want things. If they like verbally told me what the board was like, I could make decisions based off of that. But it's hard if it's like, we just want to play this game once or twice.
Or like learning a game. Like we've like not been able to like learn many games because it's like, well, let's just know this game and then we're good because we're far away now and we don't have to like the rule book back and forth and just random things like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, if anyone has any last questions, feel free to put them in the chat. But Victoria, so how are things going with Gladius and like anything else that's going on with you?
Oh yeah, it's really exciting because we are going to manufacture the game this week. So we're really happy about that. Working on the file of the game can be really hard, especially if you have a game that has a lot of pictures and text, and also getting a board game box to where you want it to be. There are a bunch of things that you need to put on there, like the barcode and all these safety labels and stuff like that. So we're happy that the game is going to get out there. We found a really great fulfillment partner, and there will also be more exciting Gladius news that we'll be sharing in the future. So people can look forward to that. Aside from that, we're also brainstorming what new games that we can make in the future. We really like doing historical games, but reimagining them in ways that people haven't done before. So like Gladius is a game about ancient Rome, and we'll be thinking about other types of games that we could make that have historical themes, and we'll be keeping in mind, how to adapt them for the virtual world as we make them. So no new games to announce yet, but in the future, hopefully we will be able to announce them.
That's super exciting. Well, especially since like you know that you're gonna try to adapt them to be virtual. So hopefully your playtesting goes just super smooth.
Oh yeah. We might just have to design a two-player game because there are two of us, and it's the easiest to just play test that.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Like I've been playing like more games 2-player, and I
Mhm.
definitely agree with those people that are like, "Oh yeah, we need the 2-player version of games."
Yeah.
Like
Because a lot of four-player games are not really good at two-player. So
well, unless like you hate the person you're playing with,
yeah.
then
Yeah.
that
Yeah, I
doesn't
think
make for a nice house.
oh yeah. I think one of the interesting things about two-player games is that two-player games are almost always you it your skills versus their skills. So it can become unfun if one person is just better at the other person than that game, and if the other person doesn't stand a chance. So I want to look into more where you can make a game where it doesn't always mean that one person has the advantage from the get-go because of their skill set, or perhaps where the fun from the game isn't necessarily in just like winning based off of pure skill and strategy, but perhaps it's about something else that you do in the game that creates a good experience for both people. Like for example, Fog of Love, that's a great two-player game where, well, I guess it is cooperative in some senses, but it can be competitive depending on like what route you take in the game. But figuring out like those types of experiences that people can have where it's not just about the win and lose, you versus them, they're better than me, I'm worse.
Yeah, I definitely like more games like that would be fantastic because I'm really good at games because that's what I do. So when I play
Yeah.
with one other person and they lose every game all the
Yeah.
time, it's like I feel kind of bad. But then like they also might know if like you purposely
Yeah,
make
lose.
win and
Oh yeah.
gaming the whole thing. It's like layers
Yeah.
of it. But yeah, if there's
Yeah.
like other outcomes, like you say, like with Fog of Love, like other ways to win,
hmm
um, I think that would be nice. So where can people find you after this?
Yeah, people can find me on Twitter at Victoria Caña, which is Cana. You can also find us at Cat Quartet Games on Twitter. So basically, those usernames: Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. We also have a website, so you can follow us there.
Okay, and any last advice?
For just like in general.
Yeah, anything.
So I would say, I guess my last piece of advice would be, uh, for a lot of people who've been trying to get into game design or who have been thinking about getting into game design, the pandemic has been tough because whereas before you could go to conventions or meetups, to play test your game, to learn more about it, we're a lot more siloed at our house, probably becoming depressed as we're at home and we're getting into the fall and winter. But I think that for me, thinking about this pandemic about as a time where I can just do fun things that I want to do with this time that I'm stuck inside or alone has been really helpful. So I've been trying to level up my skills. So I'm signing up for National Novel Writing Month. I'm taking more game design classes online. I'm trying to just like participate in game jams. And I haven't seen a lot of board game jams being run, probably because people are used to doing those in person, but I might try to organize doing a board game jam focused on games that are best for the virtual world. So like tabletop games that you could play on Discord or with video conferencing. So that might be fun.
Oh, I think that would definitely be fun, and I want to participate if you end up doing that.
Oh, yeah, okay. We'll talk about it after, so maybe I'll host it.
Yep. So, well, thank you for being here, Victoria, and thank you all for watching. If you want to participate in the Discord between the live chats, it's at weirddraftgames.com/Discord. And have a great weekend, everyone.